And here we go for another show. Starting the IRC chat room. I just remembered. So hello everybody, welcome aboard. Things are looking good. And hope you guys are going to have a lot of fun for today's show. Once again, Shortwave radio show. Ooh, yeah. So, hello everybody. Just getting in here, and it should be okay. There we go. So, back in the chat everywhere. Hey everybody, welcome aboard. This is the Shortwave radio show, and I have to stress out that I had said last week that we were about to do a satellite show today, and I postponed it for next week for a very simple reason. So many things happening that affect shortwave that I thought it was better to do a shortwave show today, talk about the different things that's going to happen with Hurricane Irma. It has an effect for us shortwave listeners. About a major solar flare this week, actually two. Actually the biggest solar flare of solar cycle 24, which is just amazing as we're going downwards on the cycle. So we're going to do shortwave today, because we're going to talk about all of that. Hey, Michael Bott in the IRC chat, welcome aboard. Nice to have you here. Sorry, Sheldon Harvey. Oh, by the way, my name is Gilles. Located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So, nice to have all of you here. And of course, we are here every Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2000 hours UTC. So, sorry guys. And of course, it's always fun to be here and have fun with radio. So, Jerry DX, nice to have you here. Steve P. from Australia. Steve and Maxine, nice to have you here. Hi, Cholakov, nice to hear you here from Florida. You guys are gonna get hit. Really, really amazing what's happening. Yes, major geomagnetic storm right now. Sheldon Harvey, nice to have you here from Greenfield Park, Quebec, MDK2. Bobby Burgess. Leovardo Mojaro Magaledes, nice to have you here from Mexico. Hope you are not too close to the major earthquake, because there was a major earthquake also. Vensterbank, hello there. Jeff, KD5 QDO, nice to have you here. Richard Cook, Matthew Kelleher, the Vaults in Latvia. William Helms in Florida. Once again, anybody in Florida, hope everything's all right. Sean Fahy, nice to have you here. If I missed anybody, say hi please. Jeff Miller, Southeast Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. Hope you stay safe for tomorrow, because that hurricane seems to be a monster beast, and it's going to really hit Florida really a lot. So just amazing. WA9204SWL, Dave in Illinois, I really like you, will you adopt me? Oh man. David Arden, and just joined, nice to have you here. And of course, been checking out the bands. They're not very good here. I'm surprised at what Richard Cook was receiving in with his receiver there in the UK. Pretty amazing. And we're going to talk about solar activity, because major events are happening. SG2 East Nebraska, nice to have you here. 88 Fahrenheit, very sunny. Here it's sun and clouds. We're a little cool for this time of year, but it's okay. Oh yeah, PLF Radio, I think I jumped over your name. In France, nice to have you here. And hope everybody enjoys the show. I've got some different lighting, and actually I will have even more lighting than this next week, so you guys should see a difference already in the picture quality as more lighting is better. My face is red on this type of lighting though, but I don't know. It's okay. I'll pretend I'm a shy type. Joshua Gosnell, nice to have you here. Always nice to have you on board. MDK2 is going to get a mini whip up this weekend. Oh, this is cool. Jerry says, what are the odds 3 active hurricanes and a major geomagnetic storm and a major earthquake in Mexico? Like, you know, all of that happening together. Pretty amazing. So thanks, Jeff. I think it's really improving the picture quality to have more lighting like this. And it's pretty cool. Tube to Holland, nice to have you here. Luis Arevalo, nice to have you here. Yeah, people say I should put makeup on HD stream. Actually, I was talking with another YouTuber that says that since he's done some HD, he started putting makeup because it really, you know, really shows. Yeah, well, I don't have any beers yet, so I just, like, you know, took 2 sips. It's too early for me to have a red face with alcohol. Dan Heavens, nice to have you on board. Nice to have everybody here, and thanks. There's a Sheldon that's actually sharing a nice page of emergency services feed in the United States, in Florida. Casey Red Dragon, hello there. I just want to say something that's not related to radio before we start, because there's something happening that's major in the world of technology, and it affects a certain number of you probably. And I want to talk about it so that you guys can prepare and check it out. Very important. Hey, John Ritson, John Drago, nice to have you here. W8FAA. So there's a major data breach that happened. Actually, there was a cyber attack on Equifax, and Equifax is a major credit reporting company. And the breach, they found out on July 29th, but the breach, the stolen data goes from mid-May up to end of July. 143 million records of people are affected. 90% of those are in the United States, by the way. So anybody in the US, check your credit stuff. And I'll tell you a little bit about a webpage I'll share. Because you might be in there, and what's scary is probably the worst ever data leak ever, because it contains the name, the address, the social security number, the birth dates, some credit card information. There's a lot of information in there. There's all the information needed for anybody to open or get a credit card with your name on it. Or, you know, it's just crazy. But there is something else that you can do, because there's, you know, I understand there's nothing you can do about the data is out, but there's something you can do, because they have on their page, they put up a separate page, a new page. They have a place where you can first check if you're part of those that were affected. And by the way, most of them, 90% is United States, but 10%, about 10% is Canada and the UK. So if you're in the UK, if you're in Canada, and if you're in the US, check it out. Very important. But they are offering, because they have a credit ID theft check that usually costs an amount of money every month if you want to stay safe and have alerts on what's happening in your with your credit. They are offering it free now, because they know that it's just so bad what's happening right now, that it's just crazy, the information that was out. So I'm going to share the page in the chat room, and there's 2 things you can do in there, okay? first of all, so let me just bring up the page here. Just bring out the page here. So here we go. I'm putting it in the chat room. So I did a check for me because I wanted to see if I was affected. I'm not, but some people are. Yes, we do have Social Security number here too. So it's this webpage, EquifaxSecurity2017.com, and you go there, and on that page you'll see at the top, the first thing that you'll see at the top is a little gray line that says to enroll in complementary identity theft protection and credit file monitoring. Click here. They're offering this for free, but you don't have to do it. But what's nice is when you click that here button on the top, you will be sent to a page where you can verify very quickly if you're part of the stolen data. You just enter your last name and the last six digits of your Social Security number. Click the I'm not a robot and continue. It's going to tell you if you're in or not that security theft. If you're in the security theft, do go and enroll in their security ID theft monitoring. So if anybody tries to do something and it shows up in the account, you'll be notified something unusual is happening. If you're not in there, you don't have to enroll if you want, but if you're not in there, that's the best thing that can happen to you. Okay, I'm not in, so I'm happy about that. I know that it's more limited here in Canada and in the UK, the number of people that are affected, but if you're in the United States, do it, check it out, okay? There you will be, you'll know if yes or not it's something that you need to check for, okay? And check it out. Okay, because it's very, very important, and you never, you know. So, you know, Valtz, I totally agree with what you say, and I totally agree that I can't understand that a company that has so much data, and you know, worse than that, there was actually another report that I've read, and I think it was on the Wall Street Journal, that was saying that the 3 top guys at Equifax actually cashed in on their on the money on their I forgot the name. You know, they're in the stock market. Okay, the stocks. So they cashed in the stocks 3 days. Okay, this was discovered on July 29th. Okay, and they actually cashed in some stocks on August 2nd and August the 3rd, and now they say, well, we didn't know about it. Yeah, but you know what? It's just that it's crazy because you did it 2 days after it was discovered by the company. This is nuts, and I mean this is unacceptable. And this actually just tells me one thing, is that they shouldn't have all that information about you anywhere. I mean, it's totally crazy, and I can't believe what's happening with that. Very big coincidence, absolutely, Valtz. You know, and they say no, we didn't know. Yeah, right. We didn't know, and the top 3 cashed their shares 2-3 days after. Really, really bad. I can tell you that. And there's just, you know, there's no excuse to this, and there's no excuse for, you know, having so much data about everybody like that. And this is major because, I mean, it's, you know, when you get a password stolen, if you get an email account stolen or things like that, okay, but, you know, there's not a lot of details in there, and you can, you know, but I can tell you one thing. They have so much data now. It's totally nuts. Your life is in the hands of bad guys now. Just so bad. So I just wanted to share it here, even though it's not shortwave related. And one thing that I have to say also is, even if you don't have credit, don't think that you're safe. Just to give you guys an idea, my cell phone company reports and the credit report every month that I pay my cell phone bill. So it gives you an idea. You don't even need a credit card or have some loan of some sort. Some companies, and even like cable companies, phone companies, can actually ask their, the information of your credit report just to see if you will pay your bills. It's completely nuts. And so I just wanted to share this and make sure that you check it out and stay safe, because it's totally nuts. And it's just totally crazy. I mean, I can't accept that that is happening. And and I do agree with the vaults. It's kind of okay. You're giving us, you're giving us, the possibility to check our credit report. But I mean, I'm sorry, but you could have been careful. And I do have one question that I did go through the chat. Why is it that it took so long also for everybody to be notified? Because I mean, they did see that on July the 29th. We are September 8th. So it's more than a month, almost a month and a half. And I do understand that you have, to check exactly the extent, but it doesn't take a month and a half to know that everything's been stolen and that you're just going nuts. It's like, what are you doing? Where is that information right now? So just check it out and make sure that everything's all right. So that's out of the way. So I just wanted to share this with all of you guys, because I know that some of you probably didn't know about it, and it's important to check out that information and share it with all your friends, everybody that you know. Share the website, EquifaxSecurity2017.com, and have everybody check if you're in there. I'm one of the lucky guys that's not inside that. But then again, in Canada and the UK, it's a limited number of people, so there are probably not that many Canadians or UK citizens that are in there. But in the United States, the majority of the people are in the United States, and 143 million is a hell of a lot of people. So crazy. Okay, let's get back to our regular programming. Today I have Fin du Monde beer. I got a 6-pack of Fin du Monde, and actually it's with a donation. Somebody posted a donation, gave me a donation yesterday evening. He says, "Oh, that's for tomorrow's Shortwave show," and he said with the express, with one instruction, part of it has to go to get yourself some beer for tomorrow. So Fin du Monde here. So cheers, everybody. Whatever you're having, coffee, tea, water, Coca-Cola. Cheers, everybody. So, what else do we have? One RR, nice to have you here. Mike DX, hello there. Brian Romans, hey, cool. Nice to see you here. Fun to see new people, joining the broadcast. It's always fun. Run Lift Tro, nice to have you here. What else do we have? Anybody I've missed? David Harden, hello there. And happy Friday, of course, to everyone. What else do we have? Desmond Crean, hello there from Belfast, Ireland. Nice to have everybody here. What else do we have? What else do we have? Some, yeah, I believe they have the TurboTax or one of the tax things. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the cat is actually looking at me right now. He's on the chair right in front of me, kind of, just chilling out and looking here. So he's probably gonna come over and say a little hi soon. Usually when he looks at me like that, especially when I talk a lot. So nice to have everybody here. Yeah, Fin du Monde. Yeah, it's almost, I gotta say Fin du Monde, which means end of the world. You know what? The hurricanes, the earthquake in Mexico, and everything is just crazy. So nice to have everybody here. Red Bush Tea for Sean Fahey, cool. And hey, William Helms, nice to have you here. Beef hash on the stove soon, cool. Scott Lane, hello there, and nice to have you here. And cool, Scott Lane, no problem there. And for let's get with it just immediately, quite fast. If you want to help me out, if you want to participate in the beer or in whatever, help me out in what we're doing. PayPal.me/shortwave. That's a great way to actually help me out here. And Patreon.com/radio and computers. Great place to also send me a little something. You got 12 patrons right now on Patreon that are helping me out every month. And PayPal.me, got a certain number of people that are also giving a little something, many of them regularly. So check it out. And we thank everybody that have donated. Thank you very much. It's much appreciated. And I've got a very weird situation happening with PayPal this week. I transferred some funds to my bank account, and they're in my bank account, but they also got refunded on PayPal saying that something went wrong. And I'm like, huh, something's gonna be removed at some point, because now it's on both places, which is not normal. Something weird. I don't know what happened there. So I expect PayPal to take it out at any point. So I'm just leaving it there because I know they're gonna find out at some time for sure. And yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about, first of all, the impact of Hurricane Irma on shortwave, because there's a lot of things that are gonna happen for anybody that listens to their favorite programs, especially in North America. WRMI, being in Florida, will be impacted by Hurricane Irma. Now, I did notice, and if I check, I'll just check again right now, 11580. It's here now. Okay, it wasn't there a little earlier. So 11580 right now is on. It wasn't there half an hour ago. What's going to happen is that, you know, as the hurricane hits, and if it hits hard, we're going to lose WRMI during the weekend. They have said that as long as they have power, and as long as it's not too bad, they can keep things rolling. But they have said that if power runs out, they have a generator that is capable of only keeping one transmitter on the air. And the one that they're going to keep on the air is 9455 kilohertz. Also, if the hurricane is pretty strong, we gotta remember that it might damage the antennas. It might do some damage to the you know, transmitters, buildings, whatever. So you know, we're listen in tonight and especially tomorrow. But if at some point you lose your favorite programs on WRMI, that's a very, very high possibility, especially with the storm being so strong. Also, anybody, you know, I've a certain number of people that are actually on in Florida, and I just want to say one thing here is that I want you guys to stay safe. I mean, it's crazy what's happening with that Hurricane Irma. We already see a lot of destruction. I've been going around trying to find feeds of different stations. I was actually looking at the camera feed of the St. Martin Island a few days ago before the hurricane hit, and I did have time to see slowly the waves in the ocean that started getting a little more heavy, some rain and some winds. Until then, the feed just got knocked out. But there's a lot of videos on YouTube, by the way, of some webcams that recorded some amazing footage of what it looks like being within the hurricane. And I just want to tell everybody that's in Florida or any other place that might be impacted to stay safe, please. Remember, you can replace your house. You cannot replace your life if you lose it. And so stay safe, my friends, and please, please, you know, be careful. And if they say get away, okay? Don't stay there. It's nonsense. You're just risking your life for nothing. I do understand the attachment we have to our homes and to our belongings, but, you know, remember your life is way more important than that. Dan 805, North Carolina. Nice to have you here. Just got home from school and getting ready for Hurricane Irma. Yeah, I believe there will be some East Coast effect also. So for sure. No, I did not get my SDR Play 2 from Mike. I've not been contacted. Need to check that out. So, you know, it's important to stay safe, and WRMI will be impacted for sure. It's very important. Like says, pack all my radios when I left my house in Miami. Other than old Collins line, those I could not take with me. So let's hope that the damage is very, very, very. Yeah, I know. Like I said at the beginning of the show, Dan 805, we were supposed to do a satellite VHF UHF. But I did change my mind because there's too many things that impact shortwave that's happening. So basically, we will, you know, be shortwave today because we're going to talk about solar activity. Lots of things have been happening in PLF radio, saying what's happening with solar flux of 129, A index 38, K7. We're going to talk about that because there's a lot of impacts. So. We're going to push the VHF UHF in next week, next Friday. So next Friday we'll tune in satellites. Yes. So yeah, WRMI is located. I believe there's studios in Miami, and I believe their antenna farm is at Okeechobee, in Okeechobee, Florida, which is kind of a swampland, basically. So it's going to be interesting. Scott Lee says, WR impact, does that mean no brothers there? Well, that'll be part of it. There's still going to be some brothers there, because I believe it's on other shortwave stations, but less brothers stairs, yes. But less of a lot of other things, like, you know, I do enjoy a lot of their rebroadcasts in the evening on you know, different shortwave outlets. So of course it's going to be interesting to you know, hopefully they're not going to lose too much out of that, for sure. So mmail 976, hello there. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, so nice to have you on board, and pretty cool to have you here. Sorry, I just I had to switch the IRC to another app, and I forgot to put it back. Master Player 29, hello there also. Nice to have you here. So yeah, there's going to be some. You know, if I can tell you one thing, if there's if the hurricane is very strong, we're going to probably lose WRMI. So pretty amazing. Aisha says, driving through Okeechobee, they are all farming communities evacuating their cattle and hoping not to get flooded by the lake. Yep. So it's pretty amazing. And you know, if the wind ever goes really, really strong, there's going to be probably intended damage, and they'll have to repair. So you know, we might, one of the things you got to remember here is that there might be some frequencies that will take days, if not weeks, before they can come back on the air, if there are some damage there. So gonna check that out. We'll be checking that out for Radio Havana, Cuba also, because Cuba is affected also. Cuba is going to be affected before Florida. I believe from one of the last pictures I've saw, it's a little out on the sea. It isn't going on land in Cuba, which will, you know, be less. It will be a strong storm, of course, but it's not going to be as bad because it's the eye of the hurricane is, I believe, not touching Cuba. And the last time I saw it, anyways. But the eye of the hurricane is apparently going to kind of go get on shore in Florida, like close to Miami or something like that. So that's going to be crazy. I mean, it's a dangerous storm. Yeah, Caribbean Beacon. I haven't checked their frequencies. I didn't think about it, but they're on 11775 right now, I believe. Anything there? I don't hear anything. Anyways, on 1175. I wouldn't be surprised that Caribbean Beacon's knocked off at all, because you know they're on the island of Anguilla. So there will be some effect of many different stations. So basically, it's pretty crazy. So you know there will be an impact, that's for sure. Now, yeah, well, you know, like I said, I don't know if it's we're gonna try it. Cuba, I've got several frequencies for Cuba. 15370. Let's check a few. Don't hear nothing much here. But they're going to be impacted like they're not yet impacted. They're gonna be impacted before Florida. Florida is like tomorrow, so Cuba will be like tonight, more like tonight. So you know, I'll be listening to 6,000 kilohertz tonight. And Radio Marti is not. I'm not sure, but I think Radio Marti is not broadcasting from Florida. That's a good question. Where is Radio Marti transmitter? Radio Marti transmitter site. Radio Marti's transmitter is... Okay, so on the shortwave side... I don't know, I'm trying to find here. Does anyone know from where it's broadcast? Is it broadcast out of Florida? I believe I'm not sure, but I think Radio Marti is from, yeah, Michael Bott. That's what I was thinking, like North Carolina or something like that. They're not broadcasting from Florida because it would be too close to broadcast to Cuba directly on shortwave. Would skip over Cuba. It's that's what I believe, like Michael Bott says, North Carolina or something like that. They're broadcasting from an area of up the East Coast, higher, so they will not be affected. And there's no relation between WRMI and Radio Marti, Jeff Miller, from what I understand. Also, it's a government. It's really a U.S. government operation, and against Cuba. So it's really much it's really much higher, so it's not going to be you know, a problem. So yeah, we're going to see. I'm going to try Cuba tonight for sure on 6,000 kilohertz because I think there's a lot of things. It is from Greenville. I'm not surprised. It probably is from like one of the VOA transmitter sites, so it could be from Greenville, North Carolina. Yeah, I think it's Greenville, North Carolina. That's what Richard Cook's saying also. So you know, they are using probably the Greenville facility that Voice of America uses, you know, sharing transmitters. And they are on 1180 kilohertz AM frequency in the Florida Keys, because yes, they do have medium wave close to Cuba to get into Cuba. So it's pretty amazing. So hey, Mad Radio DX here. Yep, we can check out propagation on today here is bad, and it has to do with what's going to happen when I'm going to talk about the solar activity. So right now I've got nothing on 15.3. I'm going to zoom in here on 15.325 and 15.300. So 15.325 is here, 15.300 is here. We're going to I'm going to check the waterfall if I can see some activity. So of course, oops, I'm 15, sorry. 14,325. Upper side band. Here we go. Now we're at the right place. So there's something here which is interference. Yeah. So we'll check out 14,300 and 14,325. So not hearing a lot of things here for sure, and basically we'll check out if we see a little bit of activity on the frequencies. Maritime net is on 14,300. So these are two frequencies you can actually listen to. 14,325 is the Hurricane Watch net, upper sideband. 14,300 is the Maritime net. They also often talk about the hurricane stuff. So and they are and you can have when they get into the evening, they go down to for the Hurricane Watch net, they go down to 7268. There's also the web page of the Hurricane Watch net that actually has the live feed of the net also. I haven't been hearing anything this afternoon. Propagation to there is really not good. So 14,265, the Satan net, there's a Satan net. Okay. C. Johnson, hello there. So this week we had a major event, okay? If we look at the solar activity. Now, this week we had a major event. We had a major solar flare with a coronal mass ejection. So here's, I believe, I think this is going to show. So you see here, this is the explosion that happened on the sun. So you see it here in different wavelengths with different satellites. So you just saw the explosion of the X9.3. X9.3 is an amazingly strong solar flare that happened. We had an X2.2 early in the morning, and then we had an X9.3. To give you an idea, these are so powerful that nothing that we've created on Earth, and not even that Russian Tsar Bomba, is close, anywhere close to the energy released by X flares. So hey there, P1 SBM, Alex, nice to have you here. So what's happening is that this week we had, of course, the first thing that happens is that there is at the moment of the flare, there's a shortwave blackout that happens on the day side of Earth. So basically, the first thing that hits you is you lose your signals, and it happened a few times for me. It happens a few times. I've seen in the past, several times actually, when there's a solar flare. You're listening to your favorite station or some station on shortwave, then suddenly you see the signals disappear, and it might take an hour, or sometimes it's a few minutes. It can be an hour or two, and the signals come back because there's a lot of absorption suddenly for the moment when the flare is just happening. Then we've got the coronal mass ejection, that particle of clouds that we've seen get out of the sun here. It was kind of directed at Earth, a little bit off Earth, but there's these particles in a cloud of particles are actually moving away from the sun at a certain speed. Usually the stronger the flare, the faster the speed of the cloud of particles coming towards Earth. Radioactive, hello there, nice to have you here. And to answer a question quickly, mmail 976. Yes, there's a show tomorrow at 2000 hours UTC. So what gives? Why is that happening? I don't think we are going at solar minimum. we are. If you look at the numbers, because you can't take just 1 week of activity of the sun and say, oh, wow, we're not at solar minimum. Because if you take this week, you'd think we're at solar maximum. The sun, even at solar minimum, is capable of doing major flares. And actually, if you research the Carrington event that we've talked about in 1850, it actually happened while the sun was at a solar minimum. It happened while the sun was very quiet. Our stream is losing. What's happening here? I just saw something going bad. Something, yeah, I'm gonna just do a little something here. Start it again and see what happens. Hey, I'm supposed to be back. We're just gonna check it out here because I see that the output is suddenly bad. Okay, it's back in the green. So sorry guys, there's a little something happening here. And we're gonna continue and revisit what I was talking about. So anyways, the problem is that let's go back a little bit because I don't know how much some people missed. I saw that some people lost the stream, and I did see that it went red suddenly for some reason. So okay, let's hope that it's gonna be okay for the rest. So basically, so Syrian Willow, hello there, nice to have you here, and so on. And basically, I will be checking out, make sure that everything's all right. Okay, so anyways, what happened is that, yeah, we just took the solar flare. Exactly, radioactive. Tammy Hell, nice to have you here. And, you know, but thanks for letting me know, because sometimes it can happen and you're not sure exactly what happens. So it lets me look at the, because I have two indicators, sorry, here that I see. I have the streaming side that I see how much data I'm sending out. And that was stayed in the green, but I did see on the page that the green line that I've got turned red. So it was somewhere between here and YouTube. It could be YouTube that had some kind of problem, I don't know. So anyways, there is some absorption when you have a solar flare happening, but then there's a cloud of particle. And now what's happening? What's happening is the solar flare sends a cloud of particle. And we're going to come to that C. Johnson because let's stream it again. Let's stream it again. Okay. Output's good there. Is the output working here? It's telling me that. Okay. Takes time. I notice it takes a lot of time for the stream to get up. Usually from the moment I click stream and I see the green line, it usually takes 5 or 6 seconds. And when I click stream and it turns green here, it takes like 45 seconds, which is way longer than usual. Very, very bizarre what's happening. So let's hope that it's going to hold now from now. So okay, we're going to start from scratch on the on what's happening with the solar activity, because I think we've missed probably. Yeah, I'm doing the stream today on a 56K modem. Is your guys? Do you think it's that? Oh, sorry. Worse than that, a 300 baud modem that I took out of the box and decided to do streaming with on HD. So 300 baud modem. So, you know, it's not impossible, Jerry. You know what? One of the things that you gotta think about, because, you know, that's something that sometimes you can you can think about. But you know, I mean, if there's a very high, yes, I will refill my beer and start again. 14.4K modem, yep. Something like that, ML. Oh man, so I'm just gonna refill the beer, okay? So it's gonna give me energy, because I do get frustrated when there's some stream problems like that from time to time. So, but you know what? One thing that you got to think about, and it's not a, you know, something that's out of the blue, but you know, we're in a major geomagnetic storm. It has impacts on satellites. It has impacts on telecommunications. It might, wow, look at that. It might impact, you know, the internet at some point for some reason. So, you know, it's not impossible. It's not impossible. So, solar flares are trying to take me out of the shortwave show. So anyways, now we are back and it seems okay. And you know, if I start talking about the solar activity again and it gets red, I'm going to start thinking that someone doesn't want me. Someone doesn't want me to talk about solar activity for some reason. So, and by the way, because I have a... and Michael Butts is talking about last time he saw auroras was in 1974. Last time I did see aurora borealis here in Montreal is in the 90s or early 2000s. I can tell you that. So yeah, I don't usually foam like this when I pour my beer, but I was going maybe a little too fast. That's the problem. So anyways, that's one thing. If you guys want to see aurora borealis, last night they were so strong that even the northern U.S. states, even up to Virginia, some Daniel Wash says it must be the DJ antenna guy. He wants me out, that's for sure. So it's there was some aurora borealis visible up to Virginia. Apparently, it went really far down. And actually, there's a report that was saying that in Scandinavia, they actually saw the auroras were so bright last night that cars were pulling to the side of the road to look at them because it was just so amazing, and people had not seen such strong auroras for a long time. So if you guys are in a you know, dark area tonight and you're close to the poles, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, check it out. And actually solarham.net is a great place to know if yes or no you might be in the pad. For example, here is pretty much a that's at 2115 UT, so about 2115 UT. It's 20. That's weird. Let's say 2115. They're off. Their UTC is off. It is 2050. I don't know. So anyways, oh, it's a forecast, sorry. Forecast for 2115. So on that page you can see the zone for the aurora, by the way. And if you are within the zone, there's a possibility of you seeing aurora borealis. The green means there's a slight chance. If you're in the red, you see aurora borealis. So check it out if you are, for example, in the UK here. I could see that the UK is kind of in the green zone here. So if it's dark where you are, check it out. Check it out. It might be you know, pretty interesting. I will be tonight checking out, by the way. I will be checking it out because we never know, and the K index is very high. So it's an interesting aspect. One of the things that, you know, and let's make it bigger here. So the UK is like here, you're in the green. The northern part, you know, like Ireland, the northern part of the UK is in the aurora zone for sure. So kind of interesting, So let's restart from scratch. As we were saying, Craig C, hello there. So as we were saying, when there is a major solar flare, like we had this week, and actually the strongest flare of cycle 24, X 9.3. It's a major flare, but it also is the strongest flare. As you see here, this on the left side of this page, you have the top 10 flares of solar cycle 24. And the 9.3 is number one. We just had this week the strongest flare of solar cycle 24. That's a major flare. When a flare happens, first effect on shortwave, the first effect on shortwave is a blackout. Only on the sunlit side of Earth. Why? Because it's the sunlit side of Earth that gets hit by the particles first. On the dark side, you don't see an effect. So for example, if it happens in the middle of the night where you are, you're still listening to signals if your signal path is within darkness. So if I would be listening, I don't know, at midnight to WRMI, I would probably not see an effect of an X9 flare immediately. But if you're on the day side and you're listening, you are losing your signals because there's a lot of absorption going on. There's the first particles to arrive are the protons. That increases absorption terribly. That means the signals get absorbed by the ionosphere instead of being reflected. So basically, first effect, that lasts anywhere from a few minutes to an hour or two, but it will subside because the particles hit immediately, but it then subsides quite quickly, and the ionosphere reconstructs itself. And so basically what happens is from anywhere from a few minutes to an hour or two, we have dead bands on the day side of Earth. Then we have a period where it's not too bad because the increase of the sunspots of the solar eruptions will actually give you in general good propagation because there's an increase in output of energy from the sun. Ionosphere is often a little more ionized. It actually propagates higher signals better. But depending on where the sunspot is, and we're going to look at this again. So there was a video here. Let's check the video again. So when you look at the video, this is where it happened. Think about Earth as being pretty much in the middle of the sun, okay, on the plane. And when you look at explosions that are happening like this, and we're going to just stop it like here. So, whoops. Let's kind of get the, here we go. So the eruption is here. We're pretty much here. But because it's not that far from the center of the plane of the sun, we will have an effect later on because part of the particles that are, because when it's actually getting out of the sun, there's a bunch of particles. There's a huge cloud of particles that I'm just gonna stop the chat because I see questions coming by and I want to make sure that we can answer them. So basically the cloud of particles moves away at a certain speed. It's not as fast as the first wave of particles. The protons get here like 8 minutes later, just like the light. When we look at the sun, the light coming from the sun takes 8 minutes to come from the sun to here. The first wave of protons take about 8 minutes also because they go at the speed of light. But the cloud particle is kind of pushed by the explosion. So it goes at a certain speed in space. It's quite fast, but it isn't instantaneous or almost like the 8 minutes of the particles. Radio Light PT, nice to have you here, by the way. So basically what happens is that cloud moves through space at a certain speed. Usually the bigger solar flares will push the cloud at faster speed. They will arrive here faster in general. The weaker solar flares will propagate, these particles at a slower speed. So they never arrive really at the same. You can't say, oh, there was a solar flare today. It should be the cloud of particles going to hit Earth on in 2 days. You can't do it like that. But there's websites like solarham.net or spaceweather.com. They actually look at the data from satellites, and they have a general idea of how long it's going to take for these particles to arrive. So the solar flare was on September 6th at 12:02 UT. It hit Earth's geomagnetic field last night, okay? And the effect that it has depends on several factors. The geomagnetic field around Earth isn't always in the same, I'd say in the same state. Sometimes it has what we call there's movement within the field, and the field kind of wobbles around Earth in certain ways, and depending on how it's positioned at the time of the cloud particle arriving, it will either be almost no effect. So at some point there happens that sometimes we have the geomagnetic field positioned in such a way that it kind of pretty much takes the particles that arise from the sun, and it's just like if nothing happened. They just move around and get it's almost like if it's just creating a shield instead of helping it do anything. So sometimes you'll be hit by a cloud of particles, but you're not going to have an effect because Earth's geomagnetic field is kind of shielding against it. But there's other times when our magnetic field is in a position where it is vulnerable, where it's kind of weaker, if you want. And when it hits at that moment, what happens is you get a much stronger effect. So yesterday, our magnetic field was positioned in such a way that the effect was pretty strong and hit Earth's geomagnetic field. It almost immediately caused a G4 storm. G4 storm, what is that? So we have in there's a scale of geomagnetic storms from 1 to 5. 1 is the weakest of the geomagnetic storms. Typically, it will have an effect, but it won't be as big. The aurora borealis will often, in these types of smaller geomagnetic storms, be very small. Typically, Scandinavia will see them, or maybe the northern parts of Canada, but the aurora borealis stays pretty far north. And you can go to the G5 storm, which is the strongest of all. In 1989, when we were hit in Quebec, got into darkness because the the geomagnetic storm induced so much electricity within the wires of Hydro-Quebec that it actually made transformers explode everywhere, including at the power station, which is very far north here. Quebec's power grid is a little bit vulnerable because it is in the far north. I mean, the electricity that is giving me all of this right now, it's like more than 1,000 kilometers up north where they are actually making it, because that's where there's the really huge rivers that it can use to generate all the power we need. And that means that the 1,000 kilometer wires through the forest from up north to here are really, really vulnerable to the fact that a geomagnetic storm creates currents. The longer the wires you've got, the more currents are induced within these wires. And Hydro-Quebec has, huge capacitors and huge circuits that will try to lower the impact within, or the interference within, the electricity. In 1989, what happened is that the power induced was so strong that it actually desynchronized the whole power grid. And there were some transformers that exploded because there was just too much current going through it. Some just caught fire because the induced currents heated up the transformers to a point where they caught fire. And now we don't know if it's totally true, because of course we haven't had such a strong geomagnetic storm and effect from a solar flare as in 1989 yet. Hydro-Quebec tells us they've done everything that will prevent such an event today. Now, I'm one of those that, okay, well, I want to see. So they've done a lot of, changes anyways in the power grid. The effect also is on the ionosphere. When we get that cloud of charged particles, the geomagnetic field modifies the structure of the ionosphere for radio listening. But it doesn't necessarily destroy reception at all. It might enhance some types of signals and reduce others. For example, in a major geomagnetic storm, signals going through the pole, North Pole, South Pole, usually are absorbed pretty much because they are within the path of the strongest of the storms. Because remember, the Earth is a giant magnet, and all that energy of these particles are absorbed and going through the North and the South Pole of the Earth, where there are the geomagnetic poles. So here in Canada, the geomagnetic pole is within somewhere in northern part of Canada. And actually, interesting fact for those that don't know, our geomagnetic pole is moving all the time. And it moves quite fast, 20 to 30 to 40 kilometers a year. To give you an idea, at the speed it's going right now and at the direction it's heading, sometimes in the next 10 years, it's going to be within Russia. It's moving away from us here in Canada, and it's going to be somewhere in Russia, like in, I believe it's in 10 or 20 years from now, because it's moving so fast. Lately, it's been moving faster than in the past, and that's because the Earth itself, the way the geomagnetic, well, the way that the magnetic field is created, is because of the rotation of the magma within the Earth, and there's, we have kind of a liquid core of iron, and there's like all of that together creates huge magnets, but because it's liquid and not solid, that moves all the time. And so the effect on shortwave will be immediate or almost when we start getting geomagnetic storming. Now, sometimes you can hear it. Sometimes you'll hear a signal flutter very fast. You look at your S meter, and it's really moving at a speed that's just so amazing that the needle's just like going crazy. And you can hear the audio effect of kind of a very wobbly signal when you're listening to it. Usually that indicates some kind of geomagnetic storming going on, or auroral activity. Not always, but when there's a big geomagnetic storm also, one of the things that you gotta remember is that very often signals east-west will not propagate much. So for example, if tonight we stay at a K-index of 7 that we have right now, that means that maybe Radio Romania might not be very strong tonight. You might say, wow, I'm not hearing some of the stations I listen all the time. But you might be saying some stations will really be improved. I've often noticed that east-west signals do not work, but you will hear signals from south or north of you. North-south signals often are enhanced. And that is something I've noticed very often. Very often I've seen geomagnetic activity. Come on. Here. Here's Mr. Paul the Cat, our mascot, saying hi to everybody. I'm wondering what's happening. So he's totally, you know, I don't know anything about what's happening. As long as you feed me human, that's what's important. So, you know, I've seen moments where the K-index was very high and suddenly heard stations from Brazil, for example, with much stronger signals than I usually hear. Stations from, you know, Africa suddenly coming in really, really well and saying, wow. So there's some stations that are enhanced, some propagation can be, others will be bad. So, you know, if you see that there's geomagnetic storming going on, like right now, doesn't mean it's bad. It just means look at it because it might be different. So we are right now, and since the cloud of particles hit last night, usually the effect is felt for a while because the geomagnetic field, one of the things that's happening is it got compressed and pushed by the cloud of particles. And one of the things that you have with this effect is that you'll notice that it takes time for the geomagnetic field to come back to its state. And it will, actually, I've seen some science videos where they actually could show you that very often when there's a strong hit from a cloud of particles from the sun, you will often have the geomagnetic field resonating like a bell, and it does that for several days before it actually comes back to normal. So that's pretty much what's happening, and that's what's happening this week with very, very strong, you know, solar flares. And an X 9.3, one of it's the strongest of solar cycle 24, not the strongest we've had. There were flares much stronger than that in the past. But the effect is amazing, and the effect on technology is amazing. For example, with the arrival of such a strong cloud of particles, your GPS might be off. You might see your GPS saying that you're, you know, a couple of 100 meters off of where you usually are on the map. There's an effect with that. It affects satellites. The cloud of charged particles and even the first hit of protons will create effects on satellites. It can destroy their electronics. It happened quite a few times in the past when very, very strong solar flares happened on the sun that we lost control of satellites in orbit. There's another effect of also this is the heating of the atmosphere of the Earth. Strong solar flares will heat up our atmosphere slightly, meaning it expands a little more. It takes more space. And the low Earth satellites will have more drag. So some satellites might actually tumble back to Earth faster because of that effect. So all of this is happening due to solar activity. Answering the question from radioactive, would the noise level increase even on the dark side even though the signals do not fade? It's not impossible. It's not impossible, by the way. It's not impossible, by the way. But I've never heard of such an effect. But I would not say it's impossible. It's totally possible that this happens, by the way. Thanks for sharing your frequency of hurricanes, Sheldon Harvey, by the way. Thank you very much. Nice list of frequencies. So, you know, there's a lot of things happening. And it's just amazing all that can happen because of that. So, what else do we have here? Just going quickly through the chat because I'm very far behind and stopped it quite far back. Jerry says, listening to West Palm Beach, NOAA weather warning on Scanner Radio Pro. And yes. Oh yeah, amazing. It's amazing all this happening and all you can listen. Mike DX says, no sign of Caribbean beacon on 6090. So, yeah, and 1175, 775 is not there. Doesn't seem to be there. So, C. Johnson, solar flares will make openings on different types of communications. There could be 6-meter band openings. There even could be aurora scatter on the VHF higher frequencies, like even on 2 meters, 145 megahertz. It has effect on very high frequencies, but not always, and it's sometimes very, very brief or very, very unique the way that things are happening. So, hey, David in Barcelona, nice to have you here. HJ4DAH, Danny, hello there, nice to have you here from Colombia. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Robert James, hello there, nice to have you here. What do we have? What do we have? Do we have anything else going through? And it's pretty interesting what's happening. Hey, Bram, nice to have you on board from Pointe Claire, VA2XE. I saw your posts of going to Concordia. I'll be downtown next week, so you could meet up for a quick hello. What else do we have? So you're watching the Shortwave Radio Show, by the way. My Kenwood 830. Hey there, WU3D. Nice to have you on board. And yeah, DK2 is amazed. There's we're at 2100, so see the indices were updated, and one of the things that surprised someone is the A index. So the A index has increased quite a lot. Looking at what we have here, this one here is A index of 38. They haven't updated. This one is 2058. Okay. So anyways, just want to remind you guys about the indices. Okay, I'm gonna take the dx.qsl.net website because this one is good to show just the indices. So current indices. So here you see here, solar flux right now 117, A index 90, K index 6. So the geomagnetic field is slowly getting back to less stormy conditions. K6 is still high, but it's not as bad. It reached 8. When I looked like at noon today, it was at 8. And has been at 8 pretty much all night, which is strong. Usually, for example, here in Montreal, just to tell you guys, when the K index it's 7, it starts, for me, it's kind of telling me I'm gonna start looking for aurora borealis. It's not impossible that we see one. But K8, 9, like last night I did check, but it was cloudy here, so I couldn't see anything. Maybe tonight, who knows, if the K index goes back up, because now it's going down, meaning that, you know, it's subsiding a little bit, but it doesn't mean it's gonna stay like that. It could be going back up to 8 or 9. So you know, this is something to check. Now the A index, remember, is an average of the last 24 hours. So the A index, of course, it's going very high. It might even go above 100 because of the K index that's staying very, very high. The average here is like really, really, you know, telling you that the last 24 hours was very stormy. Very stormy. What else do we have? Ronan Cantwell, hello there, east coast of Scotland. Nice to have you on board. As they say, better late than ever. So it's pretty cool. So you know, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and there's a lot of effects and there's a lot of things that are very interesting to check out when we you know, have all of this happening. Hey, Brett Wayne, KC2NXP from Western New York. Pretty cool. What else do we have? SatanNet. Incredible. Could you post the link up for that page? I'm gonna post a link to both pages here. Solarham.net, which is a very, very complete page for information of what's happening in the world of solar activity. So solarham.net. We also have dx.qsl.net. This one is for a very, very quick look at the indices. So you can look at this page for the indices, and they are updated every 3 hours, by the way. So to give you an idea, if you see these numbers now, don't come back in 30 minutes and expect that this is going to change. It's updated every 3 hours. So now it's 2105, the latest numbers. The next ones will be at 0, so in 3 hours time for the indices. To give you also an idea, the K index and the A index are updated every 3 hours, but solar flux is once a day, and it's at the 2100 hours time. So now we know that it's 117. The next measure that we'll see here will be tomorrow at 2100 hours UT. So that's pretty much what's happening with these websites, and it's pretty cool. Cuban lady on 11635 apparently. Let's check out 11635 and see if the Cuban lady is surviving. You know, she's there, but she's very weak for me. Very, very weak. So very weak. So we are in a severe geomagnetic storm right now, and basically we are, you know, even though there is you know, severe storming right now, I think it's important to you know that sometimes you might have surprises with different signals on the shortwave bands. 11580 is in Spanish, and you know, I want to remind you guys also that don't forget that there will be an effect of the hurricane for sure with WRMI tomorrow. Expect WRMI to you know, not be there this weekend. So nice, lots of effects and lots of things happening today. Just to remind you guys, if you want to help me out, it's simple. PayPal.me/shortwave. There you can actually give me a little something through PayPal. You can become a patron at patreon.com/radio and computers. Be very careful how you set up the Patreon account, not to have bad surprises. If you're scared of Patreon, just do it on PayPal. It's simple and it's a great way, and it helps me out tremendously with what I do. And I want to thank everybody for your support. It's much appreciated, and it's you know, it helps me continue for sure. And I was telling at my radio show, yesterday on my Insider show, how simply this helped me tremendously continue with you know, doing all of these shows. It takes a lot of time, and you know, I take a lot of time to present them to you. So I want to thank everybody, by the way, that has donated. And if you watch this all the time, never donated, you enjoy what I do, why not you know, why not take time to do a little something. Microsoft is Monday morning, Mad Radio DXer, 9 a.m. I will be there. So I'm gonna hang a haircut tomorrow. I'm gonna try and get my haircut tomorrow, so I look beautiful for Microsoft people. So Monday morning, the Microsoft stuff. So this week, next week is gonna be Monday and Wednesday. So I don't know. I'm a little nervous, gotta say, a little nervous, but hey, and we'll see. You know, like I was saying yesterday at the other show, is first of all, I am you know, I've been self-employed for 20 years, so getting up to work at 9 a.m., which means I'll have to get up here at like 7 a.m. Is something I haven't done in a long time, and yes, it is early for me. And so, you know, I'm giving it a shot. I don't know, we'll see. One thing for sure, I'm not gonna, you know, if I don't like it, I'm not gonna, you know, continue and do something that I don't feel like I want to. But who knows? We'll see what's gonna happen. Cheers, everybody. And we'll see. We'll see anyway. So you're watching the Shortwave radio show, and we are live from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. This is a show every Fridays at 2000 hours Universal Time. We have a show tomorrow, by the way, 2000 hours UTC for sure. And basically, we will be tomorrow, you know, checking out what's happened. I think tomorrow is going to be interesting also to follow Hurricane Irma, see its effect on our, you know, with WRMI. Will WRMI will be there or not tomorrow night? I think it's going to be interesting to look at that. Take care, Sean Fahey. Nice to have you on board as usual. And so I think it's going to be interesting to check that out tomorrow. Yeah, Bitcoins. They've reached 5,000 bucks. The worst about Bitcoins is that I had the occasion to buy them at like, you know, 25 cents or something like that. When at the real beginning, when like nobody wanted that and it looked like it was a huge scam. Actually, I still think it's a huge scam, but anyways, that's another story. And I'm just thinking, you know, 25 cents. What about 10 of them? And it's like I'd be, you know, I'd have $50,000 now. But anyways, Mr. Frank 632, hello there. Nice to have you here. So it's starting radioactive. My new job is starting Monday morning. So I don't buy lotto tickets, Jerry. I never buy lotto tickets. I know how you feel, Beth Wayne, getting up at 3:30 a.m. My first job, the first job I've ever had when I was 17 years old. I started at 7 a.m. I would leave home at 6 a.m. I remember, like, you know, waking up at 5:50 and had to have my 10-minute routine to take the bus at 6 a.m. to be there at 7 a.m. So you know, it's just crazy. WRMI is quite strong here on 11580. Not bad reception. Maybe we'll take a look a little bit at bands right now. Let's check out the bands a little bit. It's what, 2125. Let's check it out a little bit. There are some signals in here. Let's check the 25-meter band a little bit. So we've got WRMI 11580. That is the one I'm so scared about this, by the way. Yeah, David, maybe the radiogram will not be there on Sunday. If I hope it's not too bad. Really hope, by the way, that I really hope that the hurricane isn't too strong for you guys in Florida, because it's just crazy. Danny Shortwave and Radio DX, hello there from Yonkers, New York. Nice to have you on board. And thank you, HJ40AH, Danny, for the job. I'm taking it as an interesting challenge. And I'll be honest, I'm taking it also for another reason. Hey, Patrick Manny, nice to have you here. One of the reasons I'm taking it also is when you work from home, you know, I've been working a lot from home lately. I'm the guy, I was the tech guy that was always gone, always at some client's home. So I was everywhere. Then I became YouTuber, and I was home all the time. And I noticed one thing is being home all the time at some point annoys you also. It's like I don't see anything else in my home, and it's driving me nuts. You know, I even thought about, you know, bringing my laptop and going somewhere to do videos sometimes, just not to be home. So you know, it's something that I'm taking because I'm also thinking of, you know what, I'll be somewhere else, I'll be meeting people, which I'm not doing. You know, I'm meeting people virtually with you guys, but I mean, it's not like meeting people in person. So I'm taking it partly because of that also, thinking that I'm meeting people. And I think that's going to be interesting, you know. It's going to be different. I'll have a different life. So MDK2 is 11610, Madagascar World Voice in Mandarin. Let's check it out here. What's on? There's a little red line here. Yeah, that's probably it. 610. Very weak. If you guys remember last week, I had this one, but it was stronger, much stronger than this. Something on 11635, which is a Cuban lady, very weak Cuban lady, and 11760. Not strong, but I believe that's Radio Havana, Cuba. There's really no sign of there's no sign of the Caribbean beacon on 11775. Usually it comes in quite strong at this time for me. So Caribbean beacon on the island of Anguilla, not really there. Brother Stare on 11825. All I want from the hurricane is that the Brother Stare frequencies get off the air for a while. So, you know, we can see that the propagation isn't as good as it is usually. What else do we have here? Radio Martine, not very strong. WEWN 12050, very weak. BBC 12095, not too bad. Not super strong, but it's there. 12095, the BBC. Mike DX receiving Europeans on 27555. So interesting. So it could be also. Remember that solar flux at 117, Mike DX, means that 27555 could be actually propagation, regular propagation. Wouldn't be surprised. 27555, nothing here. Let's check it out. Anything on the CB band right now? Nothing much. Something here, what's that? Tone. CB band is rather dead here. Nothing much to show. So, not that much happening. WWV, 15 megahertz, nothing. 20 megahertz. No WWV in sight on any frequencies here. 10. Nope. Nothing, no WWV noticeable right now. So, pretty amazing. Danny Shortwave says, just picked up 2 old shortwave radios. Sony ICF 5900W, shortwave FM AM multiband receiver, and a Rhapsody RY 610 multiband receiver. And an old Sony cassette Walkman. Wow. If it works, it's cool. I still have a Walkman here. I have Sanyo. Okay, Radioactive 11775 been down for the last few days. There's been their transmitters are really bad. There's been so much problems. The audio has always been for the past months. Audio has always been bad on that frequency. It's just crazy. Really, really crazy. I can tell you that. And DK2 says, I watched WWVH disappear from my waterfall at 1830 or so at 15 megahertz. Wow. One of the things that is interesting, I would like to see a waterfall with, you know, full of signals when there's a solar flare, and see the signals disappear gradually and reappear at some point. Kind of interesting. Would be nice to see. Have you ever tried one of those loop antennas? You mean like the more expensive ones, like the you know, there's one from MFJ. There's also the Wellbrook. I've never well, actually, I've seen the Wellbrook on at Sheldon's barbecue for the CIDX barbecue. So hey, take care, Sheldon. It was nice to have you on board as usual. Yep, absolutely. Everybody that will be in the path of Irma, stay safe and good luck, of course. Take care, Sheldon. Always nice to have you here, and thank you for the nice comment for my Microsoft day on. Yeah. Well, if you look at the if you look at the cheap ones don't really work much. But the Walbrooks and these types of loops are interesting, apparently. You know, maybe here that would be something nice and interesting to have, because it would let me basically maybe have less interference and have better, you know, look. Jerry says Cuban lady survived the hurricane. Yeah, I don't know where it is right now. Let's. I don't want to take too much time, but where is the hurricane right now? Hurricane Irma map. Let's put it like this. Let's check out where Hurricane Irma is right now. There must be some. The best is probably to go to hurricanecity.com. Guys, a funny story the other day. Before I did my live show on Tuesday, I was looking at some websites for the tech show, and I wanted to, you know, out of my memory, I typed in the website of one of the tech channels that I look at, and I misspelled it a little bit. So when I clicked enter, it showed up, you know, nude women. It was a porn site, and I was like, okay, that could have been during a live show. At least it's before the live show. It was just kind of funny. So what else do we have? Yeah, the discount is, well, actually the discount is temporarily up. It's up, but it's going to be officially positioned during the weekend. The problem is I started putting it up on Tuesday, and this week we had rain all week. So of course, what happened is because of the rain, didn't have time to do anything. But now it's going to be pretty nice this weekend, and next week it's beautiful week next week. Actually, I'm even thinking of trying to find a way to do maybe a Perry Island next week. Well, I don't know yet. I'm going to do it because if I work on Monday and Wednesday, and I have live shows on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. One thing that I had an idea, and you guys might find it interesting. If I don't, I might find, maybe I could do a very, very short show because I don't have enough battery for more than about an hour. Maybe I could go to Perry Island next Friday and do a quick 1 hour show live from Perry Island. That's an idea that I had, so I don't know yet. It could be interesting. It's just sad for me that I will be stuck at doing just 1 hour because of the battery constraint. I don't have any way to power my laptops, and the batteries that I have for my laptop, I have one that maybe it's best. Maybe I can do an hour and a half. I'm going to try to find which battery is the best for my laptop. That could be an idea for next week. I'm not sure yet. So, but the discount is almost up. It's I bought some PVC piping, and the only thing that needs to be done is to put it higher, and that's going to be done this weekend. So yes, it will be next week. It will be fully functional. I might actually do some VHF UHF channel videos. If you see them appear, it's because it's up, and I want to show the difference in performance from my vertical and my discount. By the way. Have you considered, John Richardson says, have you considered use of phasing system to help with the QRM? Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. I don't know up to what point they are good. How efficient are they? That's kind of an interesting one here. So it is presently here, from what I see. So Cuba's there. It's coming towards Cuba. So it's not totally there yet. It's getting towards Cuba, which will be in the next few hours. And it seems to be... It's interesting here. I'm trying to look at the... it seems to be a little less strong than it was supposed to be. From what I see here, the tracking says 4 here. Could it hit Florida at a category 4 maybe? I don't know. No, 5. It says 5 here, so they expect it to really hit Florida at a category 5 storm. I look like a weather channel. Oh man, I was looking, by the way, talking of weather channels, I was looking at a YouTube feed about Hurricane Irma, and I was looking at the chat, which was unmoderated. It was the worst piece of crap chat I've ever seen. There were racist comments. There were all sorts of really, really bad comments in there going through. I was thinking, if you do a live feed with no moderation, turn off the chat. Don't let it go through. It's impossible. It was so bad. The comments there were so bad. It was crazy, crazy. It would be like if here I did not have any moderators. I mean, sometimes it would be bad. Just crazy. C. Johnson says, I heard someone say once you get better reception if your antenna is resonant on that frequency, so I guess that's what the antenna tuner is for. There's an improvement, that's for sure, because yes, if you resonate at the frequency you're listening to, there has to be some improvement, absolutely. But in general, for the reception is not as important as for when you transmit. When you transmit, it has to resonate, because you can blow out the output of the transmitter. But on reception, yes, absolutely, there will be some, resonating at the frequency you're listening to will make the signal stronger. That there's no doubt about it. But it's not always, it's not necessarily something that is it depends, David Barcelona says, I'm a cassette lover too. In fact, I'm a fan of analog audio because of the smoothness and warmth. You know what? Since I have the QFX boombox that has shortwave on it, it's funny, but I've kind of enjoyed listening to old 4-track cassettes. So it's very weird, you know. I've actually taken out some of my full or old cassettes to listen to because I find it just kind of cool to listen to those old, you know. There's something about it. I don't know. I like. So WA9204 SWL wants me to adopt him. Oh man, what else do we have? What else do we have? Take care, Vaults. Always nice to have you on board. And see you soon on the live shows, maybe Tuesday. Okay. You know, some people are saying, you know, the using an antenna tuner on reception is very helpful. You know, I had once a long time ago. I had one, and yes, you could see an improvement when you tune it. But you know, if you don't have one, it's still okay. I mean, but you know, it is true. The if you resonate, if the antenna resonates with the frequency you're listening to, it's always better. It's always better. PLF Radio, what is the website you're following the Hurricanes? This is a website I've known for a long time. It's Hurricane City. Hurricane City. That I've been, I don't know. I remember, I don't know if he does it still, but the guy would actually do some live shows. Jim Williams. He would do some live streaming. He often has feeds of different stations. For example, here, tropical storm force winds arrival in Key Largo, Florida, 16 hours, 15 minutes. Often he has feeds of stations in the areas that are affected. It's a very well maintained website, hurricanecity.com. And man, I've known this website since, like, I think it was one of the first websites I've ever seen when I actually started looking at, you know, hurricanes when they were talking about them. And the guy is, you know, it's very amateur-like, but the guy when he has his live shows, his live podcasts are, you know, kind of interesting. He talks about the different, you know, areas affected and so on. Richard says you should try medium wave. Nah, you know, it's daytime here. Medium wave here will have only the local stations at this time. Nothing much. And I do have a lot of medium wave noise. So, and you know, the problem is the show, you know, in the wintertime, it's easier because in the wintertime when I do my show at 2000, the sun sets an hour after. I can, at the end of the broadcast, do a medium wave scan because, you know, we start getting stations from far away. But at this time, forget it. The sun is setting like at 7:30 p.m. That's almost, you know, a little less than 2 hours away. So I won't have anything but local stations right now. So Mad Radio DXer says antenna tuners work best on long wires in his experience. You know, it's interesting to test it out. You know, I'd like to have, you know, if I'd have an antenna tuner. There's a lot of things that I've seen that I'd like to test out. It's just because, you know, I don't have the money to buy them. Maybe, you know, there's a ham fest coming up in Longueuil. I'm planning on going and checking out the stuff. I might have and come back with some goodies for, you know, very low price. Ham fests are great for that, because there are things that actually pique my curiosity. You know, these phasing things that actually analyze the noise and try to cancel the noise that you have by analyzing it, things like that. I wonder how efficient they are. There are a few things I'm curious about, you know, especially with all the noise that I got here. That's for sure something that I'm very curious about. Danny Shortwave says, Weather Channel says that Hurricane Irma is 4 times bigger than Andrew. And they're very scared. You know, in Florida, they're really going nuts, because they do say that, you know, I remember Andrew. I remember when Andrew hit. We heard a lot about it, of course, because Andrew was a major hurricane. And I believe the most costly, you know, natural disaster to hit the United States, if I'm not mistaken. Andrew was very bad. And what's scary with Irma is that Irma is huge. I've heard, I don't know if it's totally true, but I've heard this week they were saying how Hurricane Irma is the strongest storm they've ever seen, and that is scary. Just, you know, and of course the YouTube videos that I've seen of, you know, people of the webcams showing what it looks like. Man, I'd be totally terrified being in an hurricane like that. We experience snowstorms here, but snowstorms are nothing compared to that. I mean, snowstorms here are really nothing. You know, the worst natural disaster in southern Quebec we've ever had is the ice storm of 1998. I've got to say that was kind of a very intense thing. It's a different thing because it's a long-term thing. It's also something that is different. It's different also because it's, you know, the ice slowly is, you know, packing up on the branches of the trees and the wires and everything. And but I, you know, I will never forget what the ice storm. I never forget about, you know, what the ice storm was like. Here, the strongest snowstorms, it's like, you know, especially here in Montreal, we got all the trucks and everything. It's like the strongest snowstorms are like nothing for us. Not meaning that they're not bad, because the strongest snowstorms and blizzards are quite strong and pretty amazing. You know, I mean, you better stay home when there's a blizzard. That's for sure. But it's nothing compared to hurricanes. You know, you do not see destroyed homes. You just see no more homes because of all the snow. And we shovel our way through it. You know, it's like, it's not the same thing. For sure. David in Barcelona says, building a collection of blank cassettes, mostly bought on eBay. Tapes you record would almost always sound better than pre-recorded ones. Man, it's something I did so much when I was younger, David. You know, I'd love it. I don't know why. One of the things I love to do, and it's not even because of, you know, it's a form of piracy technically, but when somebody asks me, oh, you got that vinyl of that album, that group, can you make me a tape of it? And I always enjoyed, you know, I had that nice cassette deck tape, and I remember, you know, with all the lights and the meters that go up while you're actually recording and everything, it was like beautiful, and I always enjoyed doing it. Every time somebody would say, oh, I don't want to bother you, but can you make me a tape of that album? And I would say, oh yeah, for sure, because I just love doing it and watching my tape deck come to life for some reason. John Ritson says, QRP antenna tuners would cost very little. I'm going to check it out, and I'd like to check that out. I would love to. I would love to test it out. You know, John, it's a little bit like because you say the antenna phasing systems. or on YouTube. But you know, there's nothing like trying it out for yourself. There's something about trying it out for yourself which is way different than watching somebody else do it, for sure. Yeah, that is true also, like PC Red Dragon and Matter DX are absolutely. I don't think I've ever seen a Category 5 Hurricane actually live as a Category 5 for so long. Usually they vary, and you see them go back down to 4 or 3, or you know, they move around, they play around. But what they were saying is that in the upper atmosphere, the shear winds, the winds that often destroy hurricanes, are pretty much absent. So the hurricane is almost like free to go to the best, the strongest that it could be, without any, you know, just amazing. What else do we have? What else do we have? Here, they everything works all the time. I don't even remember the last time the schools were closed because of bad weather. And I mean, when I was young, I don't know, big snowstorms would maybe close the school at least once or twice every winter. But here, it's something that we're so prepared for that even the worst storm is nothing for us. Where maybe there was a, you know, the ice storm, of course, closed everything. The ice storm was actually so bad that they were telling everybody not to go to work. They were just telling everyone. I remember back then, I was where I was working, I was a boss, and I remember in the ice storm, and the worst of the ice storm, the street where that company was full of trees, and there was so much ice that tree branches were falling all the time. And I remember the big boss of the company calling me up and say, "Look, Gilles, you're gonna stay home today, and we're gonna call you back when we get back into it." And I remember he asking me, you know, "Do you have phone numbers of some of the employees?" And I remember telling him, "Yeah, I got the phone numbers of everybody. I can call them up and let them know that we're not working. There's no work today." And I mean, it would have been almost suicidal to go into that street with all the ice and the trees. So that probably was the worst I've ever seen in weather conditions here in Montreal. And that was amazing. I gotta say, I've never seen so much ice, and I don't think a lot of people have seen that in their lives. But PLF Radio says, "You're right. Irma is the strongest, the measured." They say this here on the news on TV in France. Yes, of course, Saint-Martin. Saint-Martin is one of the islands that I believe is a part of it is French. There's a lot of talking about that. Richard says, "Signals deteriorating fast here." Okay. Oh, absolutely. There's panic buying for sure. For sure. Casey Red Dragon, could we look at the signal that atomic clock pick up to set themselves? Well, I don't receive it here, so I can't really show it. But the signal that they have, which is kind of a digital signal, it's kind of a binary signal, is on 60 kilohertz, which is right here. And on 60 kilohertz, I got this buzzing sound. And that explains why my atomic clock, I'm going to show you guys what I have here. That is the atomic clock, the only atomic clock I've got. And basically, this is the only atomic clock I've got, which is this weather station, which is a very nice weather station by BIOS. Now, this is supposed to actually synchronize with the atomic time. I put it outside on my balcony. I put it in my living room, in the kitchen, in my office. It doesn't synchronize nowhere. It used to. The first year that I had it, it would synchronize when I put it in my living room. But now it doesn't synchronize anymore, so I guess it gives you an idea of how strong the interference has gotten here, because it can't synchronize anymore with the atomic clock, which is really, really, really sad, I can tell you that. Hey, Jay Watterson69, nice to have you here. And Paul the cat's sleeping in his chair right here in front of me. So, pretty cool. Yeah, before Napster, recording albums on cassette was amazing. Absolutely. John Richardson says, let me just go back here. Jill, of course, that is true that you need to try it yourself. I have just lost my hobby, both HF, amateur, and shortwave, thanks to VDSL interference resonating S9. Yeah, and the companies, they don't care. You know, once I was surprised at one thing. Hydro-Quebec, which is a power company here, where I used to live before, on the 12th Avenue, there was a interference, electrical interference coming from the power line in front of the house where I would live when it was very humid or raining. But it was not there when it was a beautiful day and the humidity went down. And you could actually hear the arcing sound of electricity in the pole, the electricity pole at the top where the wires would be on the insulators. And I remember hearing an amateur radio operator, because I was going crazy. Every time it would rain, shortwave was dead. I couldn't do anything. So I would listen to shortwave only on sunny days, basically. And if it's not too humid. So basically what happened is I was listening to amateur radio operators on the 80 meter band. And one of the guys here in Quebec had problems with noise. So he was saying he called Hydro-Quebec and explained, and they actually fixed the problem. So I thought, huh, okay. So I called up, and the woman that answered was very, you know, there's actually a number for that. And the woman was like, okay, well, you know, how do you know that it comes from, you know, the electricity pole and everything? And I explained, you know, my hobby and everything. And I was very surprised. About 2 days later, 2 or 3 days later, I got a call from a team, a truck, and they were like 4 guys, and their job was to look at places where interference was generated because of electricity. And I was so surprised to have a call from them saying, oh, okay, do you have the interference right now? Because we could check it out. When they called me, it was a beautiful day. So I said, no, because it's beautiful outside. You have to come when it's raining or very, very humid. That's when it does it. So the guy said, well, you know, we're not going to go and see it because without the interference going on, we won't know where it's happening, and which is I totally understand. And so he called me 3 times. Every time he called me, the noise wasn't there. And the 3rd time he said, look, I'm going to give you my cell phone number. When it does it, call me up. And one day it was very, very humid, and I called him up and said, look, it's happening right now. 2 or 3 hours later, they were in front of my street fixing the thing, and then it was quite all right. And the guy was telling me, well, you know, it's not that much because we're doing interference that we want to fix it. It's because if there is such a problem, it creates a loss in the electrical lines. And that's why they actually fix it. And, you know, these companies like the DSL interference you get, or the power line over, what was it, the internet over power line thing that was creating so much interference that a lot of amateur radio operators went to court in the US to, you know, stop the deployment. They don't care. Because for them, the interference is not creating a problem for them. It's just creating an annoyance for you. That's such the sad thing about them. They just don't care. They just don't care. They just don't care. What else do we have here? Checking out the Roland Cantwell says, now that's There's a long lost art making mixtapes for friends. Absolutely. And making mixtapes for yourself. I would buy, you know, in the 80s, I would always buy my music on vinyl. I was a big vinyl fan. Actually, I can just show you guys how a vinyl fan I am, because, you know, there are a lot of things here in my collection, including some really old stuff, but just to show you guys quickly. I don't know why I just got this one, but anyways. Christmas with Nana Mouskouri. This is left over from my mom. This one I bought, Roy Orbison. You know, vinyls. I got vinyls. I got a lot of vinyls. And I always wanted vinyls, because every time, you know, my friends would come over, I said, well, you don't buy cassettes. And I was to tell them, what I hate about cassettes is that you have to rewind or fast forward the cassette when you listen to your favorite song, and I find it annoying. Plus, cassettes always had this background noise, you know, that hash sound, that white noise, which was not present on a record. And of course, you know, just taking the needle and it's like, here, I'm listening to that song now. But I would like to do, you know, of course I had a Walkman, so one of the things I wanted to do, and I had a boombox, was I would take all the, you know, my favorite songs from my different albums and make mixtapes. That was kind of cool. Casey Red Dragon, where's the station anyway? The station that actually makes the atomic clock synchronize is WWVB. It's on 60 kilohertz. And it's located in Boulder, Colorado, in the same place of WWV time signal in Boulder, Colorado. Yeah, I tried the fresh batteries, everything, C. Johnson. I haven't been able to synchronize at all. I'm going crazy. I'm gonna try. You know what? I'm gonna try something tonight. I'm gonna try to leave it somewhere. There's no rain tonight, so I'm gonna see if I can leave it somewhere outside, where it might synchronize during the night. I have to find a place. I'll try to leave it somewhere. I don't know where. Maybe I should go around the home and see where the interference is the least and try to have it synchronize. PLF says, Gilles, you're right, Saint-Martin, with the Dutch part and the French part. Yep. And Saint-Barthélemy. Yep. That's you know, Bram, on 60 kilohertz I've got noise of all sorts, and look at that. Just look at the interference I have in the long wave band. Look at that. Okay, we're in the long wave here. Look at that. Look at that. Look at all the noise. This is crazy. And this is my life. Now this big chunk here is a local station. 600 kilohertz, but I've got tons of noise here. You know, the non-directional beacons are very difficult to hear. Here's one. Hey, Southern Illinois Stan, yeah, all that interference is making my S needle just go crazy. For sure. For sure. Yeah, NOAA weather. There's a lot of NOAA weather stuff online. If you have an Android phone or an iPhone, there are apps that have it. I wonder if there must be some live feed online. NOAA weather live feed. I wonder if there must be some web page. Yeah, weather radio. It's called Weather Radio. So there's streams. So NOAA All Hazard Weather Radio. So it's weatherradio.org, and you've got the streams from everywhere. So you just go through there and find a stream that's located wherever you want. So Florida, for example, is here. So I could go to West Palm Beach. Here's West Palm Beach. I just make landfall in Mexico. So here we go. West Palm Beach, 162.475. I would guess it's going to start soon.
Late tonight or early Saturday. Maximum sustained winds are near 105 miles an hour, 165 kilometers/h with higher gusts. Some intensification is possible prior to landfall, followed by rapid weakening. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 25 miles. A storm surge warning remains in effect and a hurricane warning remains in effect for the following locations in Florida: coastal Broward, coastal Collier, coastal Miami-Dade, coastal Palm Beach, far south Miami-Dade, inland Collier.
Here's Daytona Beach.
Northeast winds 15 to 20 miles per hour with gusts to around 30 miles per hour. Chance of rain 70%. Saturday night, showers and a slight chance of thunderstorms. Windy. Lows in the mid-70s. Northeast winds 20 to 25 miles per hour. Chance of rain 80%. Sunday, tropical storm conditions possible with hurricane conditions also possible. Showers and a slight chance of thunderstorms. Highs in the lower 80s. East winds 25 to 30 miles per hour increasing to 35 to 40 miles per hour with gusts to around 50 miles per hour in the afternoon. Chance of rain 90%.
So that's one website, weatherradio.org.
Some storms may produce heavy rainfall. Lows in the mid-70s. East winds 35 to 45 miles per hour.
And don't forget one thing, guys, also. There's a lot of feeds of AM stations in Florida. So check it out. You might want to, tune in to some of these stations in Florida, medium wave or FM stations through the feeds. So, KC Red Dragon, this is a non-directional beacon. It's for airplanes. It's sending out UL in letters on Morse code. And this is at the Pierre-Elliott Trudeau or the Montreal International Airport. So these are what we call non-directional beacons. And they are made to actually help planes, get in sync with the airport. Matthew Keller says, once you made music CDs on your computer, cassettes were done. Oh, absolutely. I still remember my first CD that I've burned. In 2000, on a 4X burner that I had on an HP computer. And I remember thinking, this is so cool, burning a CD. And it was long. I mean, 4X was like 20 minutes to burn a CD. It was crazy. Bram P says, I live beside that beacon. It's 500 meters from my house. UL is that the last non-directional beacon in Montreal. Isn't there, there's UL. Well, the other one is maybe in Mirabel. Yeah. Where's the other one? Trying to remember the other one. Yeah, 406. This one is ZH something. That one's pretty strong too, but maybe it's in Mirabel. That's possible. That's possible. Brady Endo 03, nice to have you here. Nope, no many Discman players. I had one of those. I had the one with the memory, the 2 megabyte memory, so that if you actually move it too fast, it's not gonna, K3DY, hello Antoine, nice to have you on board. Gary Seward, good evening, nice to have you here. Gary in the UK, pretty cool. And yeah, ZHU, thank you. K3DY is the U that I was like, what is it? Okay. So ZHU, this is ZHU. teach you. I used to DX a lot of non-directional beacons long time ago. I actually have some books here that have logs of non-directional beacons from many parts of Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, some from the United States. I used, when the noise was lower, I used to DX long wave non-directional beacons, and I actually loved it. I loved DXing those things. But now the noise level has gone so high that there's just, you know, nothing that I can actually do. So it's just crazy. What do you find on the long wave band? Randy Hartley, by the way, hello there. What do you find on long wave band here in Montreal, and with the high noise level now? Not much. There's the non-directional beacons. There's, is it 248? I'm trying to remember. No, 284, I think. 284. It's there. It's very weak, but it's there. There's some form of Navtex. But here it's mostly non-directional beacons. This is one is UL from the airport here. If I'd have less noise and if I had huge antennas, in Europe, they are actually they have some stations there on the long wave band. There's experimental stuff also. I believe around the 180 kilohertz, around like 175 kilohertz, 180 kilohertz, 190 kilohertz. There's amateur radio experimental stuff that goes on. I've never heard anything there, but there's different types of signals. But I got so much noise that there's really not a lot that I can, you know, there's, just look at the noise I've got. Forget it. There's really like nothing much I can listen to. I can tell you that. It's sad, but it's like that now. But there's different types of signals. Someone was asking me about the W6 LVP loop antenna I just received, and it works great. And yes, it was the Walbrook. So Brenny Handel, huh? Nice. I need to do that for sure. Check out one of the long wave, the loop antennas. Hey, I need to get one thing out. Matthew Kelleher says he's still got cassettes and never get rid of music. I have here a box full of shortwave audio cassettes that I need to take out of. You know, it's like below everything. It's like you have to remove everything just to get to the box, and that's why I haven't got to it. But I have shortwave recordings on many tapes from the 80s that I need to really get out, and I want to make YouTube videos of just the audio part of. This was, you know, Radio RSA back in 1987. This was that other station back in 1985. There's so many things in these tapes. I need to check that out for sure. What is Lauren on 100 kilohertz? Now, it's less used than it used to be. I'm not even sure I hear anything now. It used to be so strong that it was everywhere. The Lauren C network. Basically, Lauren C was they call it a hyperbolic radio navigation system. It was kind of a GPS type signal to determine position of receivers. So basically, before the GPS was there, they would use the Lauren C signal to, by kind of triangulation, if you want, and not just that, because it was like a mix of triangulation with, I believe, kind of knowing how the millisecond difference between each signal where they were broadcasting would actually position you where you are, and okay, I'm here. I know I'm here. So it's kind of a GPS, if you want. it's being phased out totally. There's still a few stations left, but it's not like it used to be. I used to hear the Lawrence C on 100 kilohertz easily, even just with a portable radio. So, but it's being phased out totally now. GPS just replaces everything now. So there's not a lot to do with that. Oh, it's in Kirkland, Bram. Interesting. I didn't know. I thought it was at the airport. Thanks for letting me know, Bram. Why do you have lots of noise on lower frequency? Antenna issue or else? Well, electrical interference tends to be stronger at lower frequencies because of all sorts of reasons. There's first of all, you got to remember that the electrical current here is 60 hertz. So a lot of devices actually emit all sorts of noises on 60 hertz and harmonics, so multiples of 60 hertz. There always been more interference on lower frequencies in general. So all the electronic gadgets around you actually will make more interference. Mostly, just look at the shortwave spectrum. When I listen to VHF, UHF, you immediately notice that the higher you get in frequency, the less interference I get from all the different gizmos around me. You could see that a lot of those devices have oscillators that are very low frequency oscillators. But an oscillator, you got to remember one thing: an electronic device needs an oscillator to work on a specific frequency. An oscillator is technically a transmitter also at the same time. So if you have a 1 kilohertz oscillator in the device, if you put it next to an AM radio and you tune 1 megahertz, you'll hear the interference it creates. It doesn't propagate very far, but the problem is electronics today, and the fact that they're plugged into our wall sockets, and you've got cabling everywhere in your home that acts as antennas, creates more and more noise. So the lower frequencies are technically more affected most of the time than the higher frequencies. Oh, there's all sorts, like C. Johnson says, there's all sorts of antenna patterns and antennas for long wave that are amazing. Of all sorts, really amazing. And at long wave, at the long wave frequencies, if you get a 1,000 feet of wire, you get, especially in a very low noise environment, you're gonna get a lot of stuff that's pretty amazing. David says, Joe, take it this way: when DXing, try to DX the weakest possible signal that makes it through your noise floor. Sometimes results are unexpected. Yeah, absolutely. I do understand that, but sometimes you get like a little you're kind of a little pissed off by all the noise and everything. Southern Illinois sends, I would like to hear a broadcast of Alan Wiener on pirate shortwave from the 80s, from his famous pirate ships. Oh man, I don't have that, but I have a lot of amazing things on my cassettes. I have broadcasts of, like I was telling Sheldon at the barbecue, I have a broadcast. I remember on one of the cassettes, I have the broadcast when Radio Moscow announced to the world that there was a problem at the Chernobyl nuclear plant. These are historical moments that are just crazy. If you go on YouTube and you search broadcasts on shortwave from the 80s or the 70s, try that tonight, guys. Once the show is over, if you want to have a little bit of fun with YouTube, start, search, for example, to Swiss Radio International and look at what they have. Always put shortwave, Swiss Radio International shortwave, or, and you'll be surprised. There's a good number of old broadcasts from the 60s, 70s, and 80s that is on YouTube. And it's kind of cool. And it really reminds you a lot about the old times of shortwave. David says LORAN was used a lot in aviation before VOR beacons appeared. Yeah, absolutely. It's like this is an old. KC1HOX Glenn, hey there, nice to have you here, as usual. What's the dispense on 153 kilohertz? I don't know. There's a lot of different things, and there's still some there's a lot of European broadcasters still on long wave. Some have disappeared. Ron in Canwell also, yeah, cheap switch mode power supplies are amazingly bad for that. Absolutely. The cheap switching power supplies and everything, I'm amazed. I was so scared when I got a 50-inch TV. I was scared of all the noise it would create on shortwave. And I said, okay, I'm going to plug this in and it's going to like be hell. And I plugged it in and I was so pleasantly pleased at the fact that it doesn't create and generate a lot of noise. It actually is, when it's on or off, I don't see any difference on shortwave. I am extremely happy with that. One thing that I didn't notice, by the way, guys, and that's one thing that I had not seen from the ephedry. I've got some noise on the display, like here I'm on 15 megahertz. I was, the other day, because my ephedry is always powered by battery. I don't power it from a power adapter because I don't want to have the extra noise coming from that. So I powered it off a 5-volt battery pack. The other day, the ephedry was working on my laptop and my ICOM was also working. And I noticed that when I unplugged the ephedry SDR, noise lowered on my ICOM. So I'm wondering if the ephedry SDR doesn't actually create a little bit of noise within the device. Honestly. 421. Lower sideband. Nothing here. 421 lower sideband. So nothing here. So there's a lot of stuff in there, and it's kind of interesting to just tune around and see what's alive, David says, yeah, Michelle, that happens to me too. I have S9 noise on 40 meters, 41 meter bands. Yeah, I still look for signals, although I don't tune the bands as much here as in the countryside. What makes me really, really sad, I gotta say, is when I go to Perry Island and DX all these stations easily. I mean, easily. And I come back home and I'm like, the noise is so high I don't even hear half of what I hear at Perry Island. Sometimes I gotta say it's hard on the, it takes you down a little bit. And I have to say that sometimes, I mean, these radio shows and everything, and like Sheldon at the barbecue, we're talking about how it's so cool that I bring everybody together with the radio stuff, but I gotta say it happened a few times that I turned on the radio before a live show, and the noise is so high, and I have so much difficulty listening to even a signal that's decent, that I sometimes get live and I'm like a little down on the, okay, I got to show the world that I'm not down in that, shortwave is great and still there. But sometimes you're like, man, I'm going a little crazy on that. I gotta say, sometimes it drives you nuts. But you gotta take the positive. You gotta take the positive, for sure. Yeah, I need to move out in Kuujjuaq in the northern parts of Quebec. I need to move out in the middle of a forest somewhere. Buy a huge chunk of forest and say, here's my home, and just, Wow, Danny Shortwave says top feed on Broadcastify. Hurricane-related feeds, absolutely. Just be yourself. Yeah, you know. But you gotta, you know, I'm here to try to put, you know, the positive side of radio, and not just, you know, get there and say, hey, there's noise. The noise makes it crap. So, hey guys, we've been on for 2 hours 30 minutes. We'll be back tomorrow live at 2000 UTC. And I just want to say, oh, Vienna Arsenal, nice to have you here. The reason I'm maybe cutting it a little bit short is because there's the Ukrainian festival, and I want to go eat some Valenkiri or whatever, what they call it, the pierogies things, and with sour cream. And I want to enjoy a little bit of Ukrainian festival music and stuff. So maybe I'll take a little video of that and post it on the channel, showing you guys the Ukrainian festival that we have right here. So tonight there is the first night. And I'm hungry and I want to eat some stuff at the Ukrainian festival and maybe enjoy a couple of Ukrainian beers. I think that's going to be fun. So maybe I'll take a little short video with my phone and post it on the channel later today. If you guys want to see that, you know, it's kind of cool. It has a interesting feel. It's different from what you see usually. So I'm gonna have yeah, it's that time again. It's this weekend. The Ukrainian festival is today, tomorrow, and Sunday. So I'm gonna go today. Tomorrow night after the show, I'm gonna go with some friends that have never seen that, and Sunday we'll probably go in the afternoon a little bit again. I enjoy going there. It's kind of fun. It's a very small festival, you know. It's very, very small, in a very small park, but it's kind of cool, and I want to have that Ukrainian food anyways. So yeah, only a couple of beers. I had a lot of beers last night. I went to the karaoke bar last night, came back home at 2 a.m. I don't want to have a lot of beers tonight. Just maybe 1 or 2 beers at the Ukrainian festival, and that's going to be it. So take care, everybody. And by the way, just last little moment, don't forget that you can help me out at paypal.me/shortwave for you know, donations. Patreon.com/radio and computers. Also, you can become a patron if you want. There's 12 patrons that help me every month. PayPal is kind of better because Patreon have, you know, sometimes it's kind of difficult to set it up correctly. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for your support through PayPal or Patreon. It's always welcome. Tomorrow, we are going to be live from once again from this channel. We'll talk about shortwave. We'll check out the WRMI situation if not. So I think it's going to be very, very, very nice, and I think it's going to be cool. And I think the festival is going to be very nice. So take care, everybody. It's nice to have you on board. And no, it's always 3 days, Richard. It's this weekend. A friend of mine actually posted the information. Montreal Ukrainian Festival. I'm just gonna make sure. And Montreal Ukrainian Festival. Yep, here it is. And it's September 8th, 9th, and 10th, 2017. At the oh, they changed the location. Really? Oh, it's in a bigger park now. I thought it was still at the other little park. Oh, thank God I checked out. It's in a new location, still very close to where I live, but it's not where it used to be before. So it's in another park now. Maybe because it's getting bigger, because that park is way bigger, by the way. So yep, September 8th, 9th, and 10th. So it says today, Friday, starts at 1900. So in 30 minutes. 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's going to be fun. Oh, kind of cool. I'm going to have to go and check that out later on. So thank God I looked. I would have been at the wrong place. So take care, everybody. Thanks for supporting me. Always nice to have everybody on board. And the VHF show for satellites will be next Friday. So next Friday we are going to tune satellites in orbit on the VHF, UHF frequencies. And tomorrow is the tomorrow is going to be interesting to look at the different stations. If you live in Florida, guys, please stay safe. Very important. Okay, your life is much more important than any other things. Okay, take care, my friends. Always nice to do this show. Bye. See you tomorrow, 2000 hours UTC on this channel. Bye.